Do you know who had a major impact in the civil rights movement? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a very important name in civil rights history, someone who has changed the landscape of our history to what it is today, starting from his early life to his impact on civil rights to his downfall. Now let's get started, starting off with his early life. Dr. King was born January 15th, 1929. He was the second born out of his mother and father, Alberta Williams King and Martin Luther King Sr. Dr. King had two siblings, Christine and Alfred Daniel Williams. Dr. King was always educated growing up. At the age of 15, he got admitted to Morehouse College, where he studied in medicine and in law. Dr. King would then continue on his studies at Crozer Theological Seminary, where he got his Bachelor's of Divinity degree. He then continued on his education and graduated at Boston University, where he got his doctorate's degree in systematic theology. Dr. King then became a pastor at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. He would then marry the love of his life, Coretta Scott King, who was a young talented singer and a student at New England Conservatory of Music. The married couple settled down in Montgomery, Alabama, where they had four children: Yolanda King, Martin Luther King III, Dexter Scott King, and Bernice King. Dr. King was a family man and continued to fight on against segregation until September 20th, 1958, when Zella Curry attempted to assassinate Dr. King by stabbing him in his chest area inside of a bookstore. This led Dr. King to being hospitalized. However, he survived. This made Dr. King even more dedicated to continue on his fight against segregation and nonviolence. After his recovery, Dr. King was arrested for participating in a march without a permit. According to History.com by A&E Television Networks, it states, arrested for his involvement on April 12th, King penned the Civil Rights Manifesto, known as the Letter from Birmingham Jail, as an eloquent defense of civil disobedience addressed to a group of white clergymen who had criticized his tactics. So, the impact started off with the Letter of Birmingham. And then, which leads to me getting into my second concept, the impact on civil rights. After the Letter of Birmingham, Dr. King gathered multiple people who believed in his vision. He traveled to many cities, inspiring people to fight for what they believe in and use their voices to be heard. People wanted their voices to be heard, and with the help of Dr. King, their voices were heard everywhere. Dr. King would then gather multiple religious groups, civil rights activists, and civil rights speakers to prepare for one of the biggest marches known today, the March on Washington. The march was a turning point in our civil rights history. It gave people hope that the problem would be solved and addressed accordingly. The purpose of this march was to end employee discrimination, racial discrimination, segregation in education, and give freedom to all African Americans who was arrested for absolutely no reason. The march would then culminate August 28th, 1963, where Dr. King gave his iconic I Had a Dream speech outside of Lincoln Memorial on the Lincoln Memorial steps. This gathered multiple people to watch his speech. Over billions of people watched his speech on their television. Dr. King's purpose was to basically share his vision of our nation that whether if you were white, black, or different races of color, that we should all come together in unity. Shortly after his speech, Congress had passed the Voting Rights Act law that gives African Americans the right to vote. According to Martin Luther King Jr. History.com by history editors, it states he shared his vision of a future in which this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. Quoting, we hold these truths to be self evident that all men are created equal. The I Had a Dream speech was a major impact on the civil rights movement. It caused people to be united and stronger than ever. However, there are always people that disagree. Leading into my third and final concept is downfall. Dr. King continued on his fight against segregation with another march, known as the March to Montgomery. This led multiple people disagreeing with him, stopped believing in his vision, while others continued to follow him. He would then go to Memphis, Tennessee to support a strike rally that was set up by sanitation workers where they were being racially discriminated. He stayed at the Lorraine Memphis Motel, that where eventually he would be assassinated and killed by James Earl Ray, who was a convict, a racist, and he disagreed with Dr. King's tactics. This led to our whole nation going into chaos and in mourning. According to History.com by A&E television networks, it states the wake of his death, a wave of riots swept over major cities across the country, while President Johnson declared a national day of mourning. So, Dr. King never got to see his vision come to reality. But the goal was accomplished that everyone would come together, be united, and stronger than ever. In conclusion, Dr. King has paved the way for so many people, starting from his early life, being highly educated, giving us knowledge, to his impact on civil rights, encouraging us to fight for what we believe and use our voices to be heard everywhere, to his tragic assassination and downfall, leading our country to mourn but united. Now, the question is, what would the world be like if Dr. King never got involved? Maybe there would be segregation, or maybe someone would have stepped in to end segregation. But because of Dr. King getting involved, people like me and you in different color of different races can come together and be united and not judge one another based off our skin color, but love each other. As someone of color, I am incredibly grateful for Dr. King and what he has given our nation and given to his people. Because now I don't have to worry about going out getting racially discriminated or judged based off my skin color. Thank you for listening to my cultural and heritage speech. My name is DiMaggio Carter.